Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have some stories for you from the Tales from Tech Support subreddit. A couple things before we start. At the end of this video, I put in a little bit of an update about Jenn and what's happening there with her and the family. And also, I want to call out one of my commenters. So, Tanya8117, who said, "Dude, you need dental work." Thanks, as if I didn't know. I actually had an appointment to get all of my teeth out on December 9th of last year. But then my wife had a major medical issue on November 20th, as most of you already know, and my appointment got pushed back to February, and that's okay. My concern on this one is that Tanya8117, if you're that worried about other people and think you need to comment on them and their appearances online, I really hope everything's going okay in your life, but I also hope that making that comment about me made you feel a little bit better about yourself. Alright, so, regards from Snaggletooth, and let's jump into today's stories. This story comes to us from Lenry NMQ. That time I had a photocopier repainted. I work for a medium-sized company. For our 200 or so coworkers, we have about a dozen printers and one photocopier. It's an old machine, 17 to 18 years old, but works as it should. It's been maintained by the same contractor for its whole lifespan, who I just call the Printer Whisperer, as he really knows printers. He informed me that the copier reached its end of life, as parts that need to be replaced in the near future have been phased out, so when they break, he won't be able to replace them. We should get a new one soon. Okay, I asked for suggestions. He sends me a few. I choose one. The new machine is from the same manufacturer, is able to do everything the old one did, has a similar UI, has a lower cost per page, and because we are a loyal customer of him, he can give us a bit of a discount. Sounds good. I forwarded this to upper management. They gave thumbs up, so I ordered it. It arrived, the Printer Whisperer assembled it, did the initial setup. So far, so good. The next day, I was out of office when I got a short email from the CTO, who was one of the approvers. The new copier has to be sent back immediately, and before the next order, the CEO must be consulted. Yeah, that's not how that works, I thought. You see, it was a custom order. The machine was manufactured for us, and besides the Printer Whisperer is a one-man show, his company would be hard hit if I just return this many $1,000s worth of equipment, which he isn't legally required to take back. But our 20-year professional relationship would definitely suffer. In a small city like ours, it's hard to find a good contractor, and the Printer Whisperer really knows printers. Once paper constantly jammed in the old copier, I called him, explained the problem on the phone. Yeah, here and here, there's a plastic panel. One screw holds it in place on its left side. Take it down. Behind it, in the upper right corner, there will be a plastic gear that's probably missing a few teeth. He told me, and exactly it was. On the phone, and he was there in an hour with the replacement. So the next day, I sought out the CEO. So, what exactly is the problem with the new copier? It's ugly. What? It looks like every photocopier ever made. I'm sorry, what? It's ugly. Couldn't you have bought a prettier one? Looks weren't on my requirement list when I chose this. Lower cost, brand new, similar UI, high availability, etc. But it looks hideous. It's a photocopier. It doesn't matter how it looks, it's in the back office. Only our coworkers will ever see it. If you buy a car, you also choose a nicer one over an uglier. Yeah, there are things bought based on looks, and there are photocopiers. It's dark, the previous one was lighter. It had a beige front, you know, the color every photocopier was made since photocopiers were invented. The new one is dark gray. Don't they have a lighter version? No, it's being made in this one color. Can we repaint it? What? Sure, I don't know. I called the Printer Whisperer about our new copier. Is it available in lighter colors? What? Why? No, it isn't. Why? I summarized the story to him. Can we repaint it? His brain threw a kernel exception trying to compile this. Finally, he sighed. Whatever, just don't mess with its insides. So we made a new design for the copier similar to the old one. Luckily, only the openable trays and panels were light colored on the old one. The side was darker and we retained this style, so I could remove the same panels from the new, threw them in my trunk, and gone to a decorative company. Put the panels on their desk and asked if they could repaint them. What are these? Front panels of a photocopier. What? Our CEO would like it in a lighter color, but it's only available in this one. They managed to hold poker face while I was in there and accepted the challenge. Got the panels back a few days later, assembled the thing, and I admit it kinda looks better. But since then, all my coworkers tease me about what I should repaint next time. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Throwaway Old Guy. It says, I, for the life of me, will never understand how someone can rise to the C-suite, let alone CEO, with this kind of mentality. They will ignore the fire just so they can focus on what is not burning. Another commenter down below called Logic Balm said, on one hand, I firmly believe that CEO is one of the best positions we could replace with AI. And on the other, this is the kind of decision it would probably be trained on. Alright, let's be honest here, we could replace most of the CEOs with a magic 8-ball and a golf-playing robot. I feel like OP missed out on a giant opportunity here. They didn't need to take those parts in to get them painted. They just needed to go to a vinyl shop. They could have done seasonal colors on the printer, or colors of things that the CEO really likes. Put the company name on it. Put the CEO's favorite sports teams on it or something. Even buying multiple vinyls had to have been cheaper than getting the darn thing painted. This story comes to us from Nightshade00013. It was working before I left for vacation. In the mid-2000s, I was working for a small WISP, wireless internet service provider, in a town with a military base nearby. Part of our network extended over the base, and either due to the owner's setup or some signal from the base, or maybe the fact that we were using 2.4 gigahertz, we had a fair share of issues at the time. The owner was basically absent and working for another company about 2 hours away while going through a divorce. I was left dealing with support issues, sales, setting up equipment for our installer, and some PC repair services. Anything network-wise I couldn't figure out, the owner would remote in and deal with. Our network was based around static IP address sets where the tower was a .1 and any of our equipment was always an odd IP address, and customer devices had an even IP address right next to it. Everything was built on private IPv4 space, though a few had static routed IPs as needed. So one Monday, fairly early in the workday, I receive a call from a customer about 20 miles from the office who was having a problem with his internet connection. I pull up his account, find his IP pair, and start poking around to see what was working. I first started pinging the tower sector his equipment was connecting to, then adding a ping to the CPE, customer presence equipment, and finally his personal device IP address, which in this case was a small router. So the tower was working fine, no excess latency or drops, and same for the CPE, but the customer's address was not responding at all. I asked the customer a few questions and asked him to check the cabling and such from his end, but as far as I could tell, everything on my side was working. He said it was all working on his end before he left on vacation, and that no changes had been made, so it must be on our end. We went back and forth a few times, and I told him I would be happy to come out and take a look at it directly, but if it was his equipment at fault, it would incur a service charge. He didn't care for that idea and said he would check things again and call back later. I left my pings running and checked them throughout the day just in case the problem was intermittent and only his place was being affected at this point. The customer called in again just after lunch and reiterated that his internet was still not working. We talked about a time for me to come by and take a look and scheduled for around 4 p.m. that afternoon. Then I could close up the office early and just head straight home since my place was a bit closer to him than the WISP office. He still insisted the issue was not his equipment, but understood it would be a charge if it wasn't. About the time where I was closing up the office to head over and deal with the issue that particular customer had been having, I received a phone call from him, and he was quite contrite. He informed me that his internet was working now, and I no longer needed to come over to look at it. It seems that, unbeknownst to him, before leaving on vacation, his wife had decided to unplug the router. One of the earliest questions in the troubleshooting I always asked was if everything was plugged in, and I also suggested rebooting the router. Choosing to lie nearly cost him $100 for some guy to take 30 seconds to check the cables and plug it in. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Brax4Tex. It says, I learned that I needed to trick folks into actually checking the cords or power cycling equipment. I'd ask an unexpected question like, could you pull the power cord out of your router and tell me what color the metal tip is? That would force them to actually check instead of knowing it's already plugged in. Way more effective. I've used something similar in tech support before with a customer, but more along the lines of an Ethernet cable. If they're really tech illiterate, you can say to them, oh, well, that Ethernet cable might have been plugged in the wrong way, so could you unplug the one from the computer and then the other end from the router and then swap them around and plug the other ends into the computer and the other end into the router? And then we'll see if that works. Because at that point, you know for sure that cable's plugged in, as long as they can figure out how to do that, and you can continue on with your troubleshooting. This story comes to us from FindKey4594. People think they're helping by showing me what their AI chatbot said, but it just doesn't. Lately, there has been an influx of end users where I work that have been adding the response ChatGPT, Copilot, or whatever LLM they use says. This is either while I'm on a call with them or written in a ticket or email. I have been solving a user's problem when they just say, I just asked ChatGPT and it says X. At that point, I am already close to resolving it. At this rate, it just feels like an insult to my intelligence and experience because I have enough experience to not be told by someone's prompt from an AI chatbot on how to fix their issue. The most recent one is where someone wants an incoming webhook on Teams. They sent me the answer ChatGPT gave them and said they tried it and it didn't work. I mean, I will likely have to do a call with them to see what exactly they were trying and if we have restrictions in place somewhere, but this is just one example. Another example is someone wanting a new laptop for their specific role, like using Photoshop for example. They send me what their chosen LLM said, and when I looked for these laptops the AI listed, they are no longer something you can purchase and are end of life. I then just did my own search and found them something and got it approved. I really wish people would stop using their AI chatbots to tell me how to do my job, because it's usually wrong or outdated, or I already know the answer. If I want to know how to do something, I will just search Google for people who historically had the same or similar issue, or Reddit on one of the related subs, or my existing knowledge. Okay, so I admit I do use AI quite a bit to help schedule out my day and remind me of things that need to be done because my memory is worse than a goldfish. But I completely understand from playing around with this AI that if you ask it something and you need an answer that's based in facts, well, you just might not get it. In fact, you might have better luck going down to the local pub, talking to the regular that is completely pissed off his rocker, and he might be able to tell you better information. Don't get me wrong, I know AI has its place for certain things, but when people go to it asking about medical issues, or go to it for tech support issues, the consequences of things being wrong are just horrifying. To drive home the point I just made a little bit more, this next story comes to us from Pretty Boy. But ChatGPT said, we received a very strange ticket earlier this fall regarding one of our services, requesting us to activate several named features. The features in question were new to us, and we scoured the documentation and spoke to the development team regarding these features. No one could find out what he was talking about. Eventually, my colleague said the feature names reminded him of AI. That's when it clicked. The customer had asked ChatGPT how to accomplish a given task with our service, and it had given a completely hallucinated overview of our features and how to activate them. Contact support. We confronted the customer directly and asked, where did you find these features? Were they hallucinated by an AI? And he admitted to having used AI to reflect and complained about us not having these features as it seemed like a brilliant idea and that the AI was really onto something. We responded by saying that they were far outside of the scope of our services and that he needs to be more careful when using AI in the future. May God help us all. I think one thing we have to remember when we use a service like ChatGPT is that GPT could also stand for Gullible Predictive Text. What everybody using AI really needs to do is type something into there, ask it a question about something you already know a lot about, and then see how wrong it is. Because if you're an expert in something and it hallucinates a bunch to you about stuff that you already know, well, you can only guess just how much it's hallucinating about the stuff you don't know. This story comes to us from bwade913. This better fix my problem or I'll come over and trash the place. First time poster here. I worked for many years as an applications engineer doing tech support in the EDA, electronic design automation industry. My first job was in the mid-80s with a company that sold PC board CAD machines. This was a time just before the standard computer platforms became the norm, and the company had designed their own hardware workstation based on the Motorola 68000 processor. The machine was equivalent to the Sun 3 workstations that came out around the same time. They originally wrote their own operating system, but eventually ported to a Unix BSD 4.2 as customers demanded standardized platforms. The company developed a hardware accelerator for routing PC boards that were similar to the workstations, but were headless. We called them root engines. They had no graphical monitor, no keyboard, no mouse, and no hard drive. They booted on a 5.25-inch Unix floppy, and then routing jobs were submitted to it over the network. A common problem was that if a job was submitted that required too much memory, the machine would hang with no indication of what was going on, unless you had a terminal connected to the serial port, what we called a debug monitor. And if the root engine wasn't shut down properly before being rebooted, it would require a manual file system check that could only be done using the debug monitor. We didn't supply debug monitors with the root engines. The customers were expected to source their own standard terminal. They weren't required, but they were strongly recommended. I was the tech lead doing support for the root engine, and so I was pretty used to helping folks navigate these supportability issues. Most of the PC board layout people at that time were used to doing manual layouts using tape on a light board, and weren't always very computer literate. Our workstations were touted as being very user-friendly, and could be used by layout folks with no specialized training. My problem case started when I heard that a customer had been so profane and abusive to our normally imperturbable hotline phone screener, no email back then, that she had been reduced to tears. Apparently, he refused to submit to the normal case assignment and callback process and demanded that he be provided immediate help. Normally, we'd ban abusive customers, but this guy worked for a local company that our CEO had been a founder in, and so my manager decided to try to work with him. We learned that his field engineer had been trying to teach the guy how to keep his root engine running via the debug monitor and how to run FSCK to clean up a bad boot floppy. But he just wasn't getting it. My manager and I visited him, and I also tried to train him to properly maintain the boot floppy. I got nowhere with him as he was untrainable. In the end, we just made a stack of 10 copies of the boot floppy and told him that if the root engine ever failed to boot, just try a new floppy, and if you run out, let us know, and we'll make a new stack of boot floppies. As we're getting set to leave, my manager was doing the usual thing of summarizing the resolution of the issue, stating that this duplicate boot floppy solution should resolve his issues. That's when the customer replied, "It better, or I'll come over and trash the place." My manager ignored the threat and we left. Not long after that, I read a newspaper article saying that our customer had been arrested for kidnapping his estranged wife. We never heard from him again. So the main problem that I see in this story is that they refused to ban this person way back in the beginning because they worked for a company that was founded by the CEO. That doesn't matter. If you're abusive to somebody on the phone, you can go F off. Then, when they gave this person the second chance that they never should have had, they said, "It better work, or I'll come over and trash the place." Yep, that would have been the end of you being a customer with my company. There would be nothing after that. Alright, normally at this point we would close things off and say goodbye until the next one, but I pre-recorded a video to give you guys an update on Jenn because some of you had been asking, so we'll go ahead and jump into that now. Hey everyone, Rob here. So quick update on how things are going with Jenn and the family and everything else in our lives right now. So we're now, what is this, January the 4th. So she's been out of the hospital since December 2nd, I believe it was, that we came home. So it's been over a month, just over a month. And she's at the point now where she is proficient using her walker to get around the house. She can go up and down the stairs on her bum, no problem. getting up. She does sleep upstairs in this room, right over there, every night, and that's a wonderful thing to have her back upstairs. Um, she can walk a little bit on her own if I'm there to basically hold her up in case she stumbles to one side or the other, but even that is getting better, and we're quite happy to see that. So she's still a long way away from going back to work. That's the doctor said that they're going to revisit things by April 1st for the possibility of her going back to work, even on a reduced activity level. And so we'll see how that goes. Her mental health still isn't completely there because she can't do the things that she used to do, and that's weighing very, very heavily on her, especially when she sees that I'm doing everything in the house for the kids and trying to keep the house going and trying to get my work done here as well, which I obviously haven't been doing very much of recently. So there is that. But again, because of you guys, because of the community, we haven't had to really worry about the income from YouTube. Although it will become a concern in a few months again. It has been an amazing thing that you guys have done to help us out there, and we really appreciate that. The kids are doing well. They've had a 2-week break off of school for Christmas, and Christmas Day was awesome. It was different, don't get me wrong. We weren't able to do some of the things we normally do, but we made the best of it, and the kids had a great time, and that's really what matters out of the whole thing. New Year's, one of our kids stayed up with us to watch the ball drop on in New York, as we usually do on TV, and that was great as well. So things are slowly getting better. But they're still going to take quite a bit of time before she's back up and able to do everything that she used to do. One of the things we're noticing also is that she's very focused on things. So if she has a task at hand, she focuses on that, and everything outside of that task really kind of disappears. So like she was winding up balls of yarn for one of the kids a couple of days ago, and she did this for about an hour. She was going through different balls of yarn and winding them up, which worked on her motor skills, which is a good thing. But it was like nothing else was going on around her. She wasn't paying attention to anything going on around her. And so I'm hoping that's something that will come back in time, and that's just a side effect of the anti-seizure medication that she's on. So anyway, that's where we are right now. Thank you again to each and every one of you for your support. I hope this update is enough for you for the moment. I'm hoping to post up another update video on its own that actually has Jenn in it and might actually have the kids in it as well. As I mentioned in a previous one, we are starting a family channel soon, and we're working on that. We've already got some footage for it ready to go. So more news on that coming soon. As far as this video goes, though, we'll go ahead and cut this one off here. I hope each and every one of you has a wonderful day today, and we'll see you in the next one.